Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this inaugural live stream that we're putting on today. Our topic that we are wanting to cover is what the heck is lived experience data, as the creators of this category and building this idea of lived experience data. We find that it's really important to share, explain, and teach about what can be done and how this is important to your business. My name is Adam Stepanovic. I'm co-founder and CEO of DashLX, and joined here by Dustin Robertson. He has a long history in the industry. He started back in the good old days, the dirtbag days of backcountry.com as the fourth employee. He was started there in 1999 and grew that iconic startup from just a garage operation into 350 million a year as the CMO. From there, he went on to found another company that he's currently at right now. I called it Caddis, and it's a great brand that is reframing and building that you don't, with reading glasses, you don't have to suck, and that challenging the stereotypes of aging and style and attitude. So, Dustin, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks, Adam. I noticed you didn't call me OG like you guys did in the invite. I was thinking about that. I was like, is that a good thing? Does that mean I've been doing this longer than everybody else?
Yeah.
It's like I've been doing this longer than everybody else.
Yes, you have. Yeah. I guess we called you like Oracle.
Caddis Eye Appliances. You didn't quite get it right, so let's just fix that. Caddis Eye Appliances. And yeah,
Caddis Eye Appliances.
We are about being proud to be old as opposed to trying to avoid and hide it, which is that's the brand's point of view. So that has resonated with our target customer, because to need reading glasses, turns out you need to be over 40. So that's worked out.
Yes, as a new person in your market, I noticed both physically and emotionally with your target. So it works very well.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Great. So yeah, with Alex data in mind, and you've been around us in this category from the very beginning. You know a lot about it. I'm curious, when you think about brands and the way that you're seeing from, you were involved in the first wave of the major difference in the way that marketing was done, and backcountry.com and digital marketing revolution and everything. You were right there at the start of that one. Now we're at another one here. So I'm curious, with the big picture of what is the biggest problem most lifestyle brands are facing right now in customer data. What's your perspective on it at this point?
Yeah, I think even just to helicopter out of the data point, it's just really hard to connect with customers now because everything's digital. And so we have the same channels everybody else has, right? We have Instagram, we have websites, and if you're lucky, you have stores. And most of the brands that are being successful have figured out how to create their brand as culture. So like Lululemon's probably a pretty good example. Like they really anchored themselves in yoga and had yoga activities at their stores, and there's a very purposeful physical presence to it. There's a bunch of those these boutique running brands coming out right now that are kind of like following those paths. There's like Bandit and Satisfy, where the culture of running and the participation of it is the brand, and they're really focused on that. So I'd say that kind of is like the challenge. We're all trying to figure out, how do we stand out in a world that's just flooded with digital data? And those are our tools we have to connect with our customers. And in those channels, we all have the same data. So when I started, there was very little data, and any little data nugget you could find was a competitive advantage. And that's how we did it at Backcountry. We just measured everything we could do, and we found every place where we could send data out that would get us a presence and touch a customer, and then everywhere we could measure what happened when we did that. And this was before Google.com existed, and we were doing this. And so back then, every time we unlocked some new form of data, we would have it before the people, and it was a growth accelerant. And that's just not the case anymore. So we're kind of like, we went through that phase where data just any of it was valuable. And then like the form factor changed. So we went to mobile, and anybody who could figure out how to get somebody to put a credit card into a phone was interesting. And then we had the social revolution, which totally changed how people shopped and engaged with brands. And now we're at this point where that's all ubiquitous. And so now what? And there's AI, and who knows what that's going to do. But what attracted me to your company was you guys had a data, but it felt like 1999 data. Like this is data that is not known. The walled gardens of Google and Meta do not have this data. And if you can get your customers to share this data with you, it unlocks an entirely different conversation and relationship with them that even goes beyond what, the Lululemons of the world created in the physical world with yoga. Like you can create a better relationship than that with this digital data. So I think that's kind of where we're at. It's like there's the AI world, and I don't know what's going to happen with data and that. I think that's to be told. But I do think any data set you can get that is unique to you and your customer relationship is going to be something good to have. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting how these things are found. They become normal over time. Where we joke around about getting into your first Uber and how scary that is. Same thing with marketing. Whereas I would imagine these things were pretty scary in 1999 as well. Where it's like, how do we use this data into our traditional marketing, and how is this going to give upheaval to jobs and everything in the market? And that now we're totally okay with it, those older ways, and this is just the latest refresh on the same sentiment.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that big of a leap. I mean, like staying in a stranger's house or getting in a stranger's car, which is how people framed it, right? And it turned out the reality is not really that, but getting in a taxi cab was also getting into a stranger's car, but like framing and naming the experience matters. And so what we're talking about here isn't even remotely that. You might think it's weird to know, the heart rate and the amount of miles your customer just ran on their workout, but it's not actually if they want to share it with you. And we're, all of us that have wearables are already sharing this data across multiple platforms. I just don't get any benefit from sharing it other than tracking my progress. And so I think there's a huge unlock, to track my progress, sure, but what else could happen if I shared this with a brand that was interested in sharing back with me any insights or relationship they wanted to have around it?
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah. So breaking down what lived experience data is, I think is important with what you're talking about there. It's not just a Silicon Valley buzzword. It is literally your lived experience, the physical existence that a person has through the 24-hour clock of that day. I think that's important because the major unlock is that you have brands with clickstream data, like we're talking about here, where you have all of that information about when they're on a screen, and they're very important to understand all those pieces, of course. But when someone is not doing that, then they have they're living. They exist away from their device, believe it or not. And when you make a product like a raincoat or shoes or anything, skis, all the way through consumer packaged goods, whatever, most people are using those things and when they're not on the screen, and that's where the lived experience data comes in. It's about how people move and rest and train and explore all these different things beyond what they click when they buy something, so that you can then have a strong, tight relationship with the consumer that around what you're actually building it for. Like a raincoat company, let's say Columbia Sportswear or something, when they make a raincoat, they aren't thinking, well, how well is this going to work around the clickstream data that I get on them, and have all this information. They're thinking about what it's like in an actual rainstorm. And that's where lived lived experience data comes in spades is just being able to say, hey, you got caught in the rain. Like, here's some options to make that a better experience next time. That's unheard of in the way that clickstream data has been done in the past. So I think it's really important to also call out that it inherently is GDPR and CCPA, all the acronyms of privacy, data privacy, security, all those things. It's already compliant because the consumer is literally asking to connect their data so that they can have a better experience with that brand. So it goes from an opt-in and a really ethical way of handling data natively, and I think that's an important part of it. So you can get message. A brand can send messages, can do product development by understanding what people are actually doing in that product. The product development and marketing teams can really connect and be aligned and actually get along. They really can because they are on the same page of satisfying what their consumers really want. So a few stats: 41% of U.S. households own wearables, 90% of adults have a smartphone. All of these are things that capture your lived experience data already, and is super beneficial for the consumer and the brand to be able to know a little about each other, just like any other relationship. So,
yeah, I forget who framed it this way, but like digital products. So as soon as we install an app or load up our iPhone or put on the Oura Ring, like the company immediately has data flowing. They immediately know, oh, did we complete the sign up? Are we logging in every day? They can even like reach out and ask us if we're satisfied. So like we're used to that in the digital world, and all the companies that make physical products have no idea what happens when somebody buys the product. They have no idea if it got worn or if it got used and so it's like super interesting that LX data basically brings this measurement framework that the entire digital world is built on and has driven the economy to physical products. Like another way to look at it. And then there's the customer benefit that comes from that. But that was like an interesting explanation that I forget if it was you or Dave or somebody said that, or maybe it was Lockhead, but
Yep. I think that is a good way. It's bringing the physical product companies, which is the far majority of companies, into an even playing field with the digital companies. That this is how things go viral. This is how things are so well known in the digital world, is because of all of this learning and understanding of the consumer. And now through lived experience data, you can have the exact same thing for your shoe company, your bike company, same thing.
Totally. Yeah, I just got a new Yeti actually. Super excited about it. It's a mountain bike for people who don't know. And it was interesting to see like they sent me like a brand handbook, and they gave me like a little library card to indicate like I was just checking this mountain bike out, like this thing's going to be somebody else's. It was just an interesting brand experience, but it was totally one dimensional. They have no idea if I've ridden the bike yet. They have no idea. I had to set up the shocks. I did actually have to install an app to like scan it, the code, figure out all the stupid stuff. And like, none of it's connected, and nobody's reached out to be like, oh, congrats. I'm like, and the first ride I did on that bike, I was like the fastest time I'd done it in like 30 rides, according to Strava, which was an interesting data point. I don't know if it was the bike or not, but like all of those things should have been connected back, and Yeti should have been aware. I'm like, oh, wow, I guess you like your new bike. Yeah, I mean, and maybe I'm just a nerd and a marketer that wants that, but I feel like there's a massive disconnect that's happening there. So that's like one example, right? A massive $8,000 purchase. This is my third Yeti too. So that's the other thing. They don't even know that I've had 2 previous bikes, right? I'm like super brand loyal. So
right. Wouldn't it help your word of mouth marketing to others if they would have been like, dude, look at that PR. Why don't you go share this on Instagram with your friends, and here's the template the way to say this.
Yeah. I don't even have to really share I got a new bike. I mean, I just have to make the post myself, right? I mean, that should all all be part of the kit that they sent me when I bought the bike. Like, hook your LX data in here. Here's how you share your first ride. Here's the community we've built where people are doing that. Yeah, it's just the physical product companies just are behind the curve on this, and it's not entirely their fault. There hasn't been an easy way for them to do this. So that's kind of why this is exciting. This is the future, and we just need to get people to stop thinking about the old way, which was a brand book and a library card, which kudos on the library card. That was at least different. And they wrote my name on it. Like I was the first person to check the bike out. So.
Oh, that's great. That's clever. That's clever.
Yeah, no, it's good. They're an awesome brand. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, when we think about, all right, so if we look at the contrast, one that comes to mind is New Balance, that they wanted to take instead of biking into the running approach, they are very, I'd say that your level of biking is akin to their marathon, like very committed marathon runner, and they wanted to make sure that everything around their consumer, their marathon running, intentional runner, was really taken care of. And this didn't just mean about how they trained. That included, and not just regional location pieces like that, but they wanted to know why they ran, who they are, how the variables like experience and their choices around what kind of gear to buy, that they buy, and training habits, and how all of that influences their performance outcomes and their mental state before, during, and after. Which, that seems like a lot. It's when you use the lived experience data, they were then able to do this at large scale and go across many different marathons, starting with New York and London, and moving to a bunch of different places, to a major marathon near you. So the way that used to be done is through small user groups, lab-based testing, very small sample sizes and whatnot, and then they'd have to extrapolate out. Well, what happened is all these people have wearable devices, all this lived experience data coming off of them, and over the, this has been a major change in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, and then every year exponentially more with the Oura Rings and Whoop and everything else. That then that data, they could reach out and say, hey, marathon runner, we see that you're signed up for the New York Marathon, or that you seem to be training for something really big on this date in November. Are you training for the New York Marathon? Well, guess what? That you want to know how opt-ins happen. That marathon, no marathon runner has ever said no to opting into something to talk and share about the marathon experience. And so, of course, they connect. And now they're starting with, after they connect with everything, they're getting surveys that are super applicable, and brand information. They're getting like a kudos on doing their long run. Like, hey, this one mattered. The types of things that, like, hey, that was a really hot run out there. It was in the high 90s, and you got your mileage in. Like that stuff, telling the runner that matters, and that brand building relationship creates this really tight, loyal consumer that is much less likely to just go to the sale rack and find the next brand over. Instead, they're like, no, I'm a New Balance runner, because they get me, they hear me. And all of that is coming through devices that people already have. So their Garmin, Coros, Fitbit, things like that. The Apple Watch, all of these devices that we are used to using to put stuff on Strava, or to capture our own daily sleep and everything else. That creates digital exhaust that we, as consumers, can use to feed into something. That's how New Balance is leveraging it, and it becomes a really simple way to make a strong relationship with one of your consumers that they've found. So by automating and removing all of the crazy data overhead. That's super important for these brands. And I imagine every brand out there, it's like, how am I going to possibly build all of this with a dev team that is way over committed right now? And that's one very nice thing about um, working to get lived experience data together in DashLX is we've made that easy. That new capability has transformed the pipeline into something that is got much higher repeatability, higher shopping cart values and things like that, lower abandoned carts, because people just are more in tune with what is going on at that brand and how that
Well,
applies
it's like
specifically to them.
it's not marketing at that point, right? You're having a conversation with your customer. It's like intimate
Right.
relationship building. That's what marketers, especially customer marketing, which is kind of what we're talking about here. That's what it's supposed to be. We've been told personalization and fed that line of BS for 20 years. And the reality is nobody wants to be personalized. I just want to have a relationship. And so if you're talking to me about my training and my running and my goals, that's not marketing, that's a relationship. And oh, by the way, hey, you've hit 500 miles, you probably should get a new pair of shoes, right? I mean, that I know I need new running shoes when my knees hurt. That's probably too late, right? So I wish somebody would have told me before that point.
Right. Absolutely. You're exactly right. So, yeah, thinking about how that, I mean, the driving of loyalty is such an important part. How do you see this? That's a pretty, like you're saying, with personalization and digital um, tools, all those buzzwords and things, digital transformation. Loyalty seems to be one that's coming out right now, but it seems to be a bit more rooted in a necessity and reality, because that's how you don't have a leaky boat as a brand. And so, how do you see loyalty and live experience data around that?
Yeah, I mean, it's never costs more to acquire customers than it does now, and we know how much it costs because we can measure it all, and we're all fighting for the same eyeballs and the same impressions, and so whoever can afford to pay the most is where the bid is set. So it's never been more expensive to run customer acquisition programs, and so when you do, you better have a strategy to retain them and maximize their LTV. And the only way, I mean, you can do that with sending them follow. Hey, people bought this, should buy that. Hey, it's been 90 days since we've seen you. We'd love you to come back. Here's a discount code. Like those are the strategies most of us use. And that's like that's just not going to be good enough going forward. Like once people have this data and they're having conversations and relationships with their customers, that's where the sales are going to go. It doesn't matter how much personalization or recency, frequency, monetary triggers you have to get somebody to come back. It's too late. Brooks or New Balance or somebody that's using this data already has that customer connected, and they're selling them and meeting all their needs in the form of a relationship as opposed to a transaction.
Right. Yeah. I think we were reading the other day that the top 10% of customers are driving 30% of the sales, 40% of the growth, and 50% of the profits. So you don't want to sleep on those. And those are the most difficult to get, and getting them in an easier way like this is important.
Yeah. And again, like we're as marketers, we're looking for reasons to reach out to our customers. And, we only have so many with the current data set. And the reasons to reach out lack context, which therefore means we can't offer guidance or expertise, which is what we're looking for as a customer from our brands. So, yeah, it's pretty clear this is the future. I don't think we've really talked about like how does this data get put into the marketing automation stack. And so if that is a worry to people, it's super simple. If you're using something like Klaviyo, or we can name the 20 other automation tools out there, this just flows in like data that you can trigger, just like clickstream data. So this is the next level beyond clickstream data, is this lived experience data. And it's so much more valuable because it has the context you need to offer that expertise and guidance and have a relationship. So just plug it in and send out the text saying, congrats on the marathon, because you know they just finished the New York Marathon because you have their location, the miles ran, and their time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is an important part. Is what we've heard loud and clear is it needs to be easy, and so we put a tremendous amount of time and thought into and walked the talk on how to make things easy, from a brand defining the lived experiences that matter most to their consumers and what they want to have their point of view around, to the defining the whether it's going to be marketing or loyalty or innovation, those types of starting points. And it goes straight from data insight to action, right into your Salesforce, Qualtrics, RudderStack, all sorts of different brand names of products. That was one of the things that we heard a lot, is that we can't just rip everything out and put all new in. It has to integrate in. So so a great deal of energy has been put into that, which I think is important. And once you have those pieces set up, it's amazing how quickly the ROI traction can happen, so that all along finance and everybody who needs to be giving the thumbs up on this being a important part of the brand, and the brand vision going forward, those are all quickly satisfied and made.
That's a pretty good point, though. Finance is going to have a hard time understanding why this is good.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yep.
They'll be like, what? We're going to get sued if you have somebody's location data. It's like, yes, finance, legal.
Yeah. Luckily, we deal with that a lot as well, and have never been stymied by a finance department or a legal department yet. Usually, it's like, oh wow, this is all opt-in, and you have all of the security pieces and compliance in order. Like, oh, okay, that's refreshing. I can't imagine the people they normally are seeing.
I thought
It's also an important reason to not build it yourself.
Yeah, totally. The grocery retailer you guys were talking to, which is random, but when around like getting opt-in, they're like, oh, when somebody opt-ins with our gas app, that we have all their information. We basically have their health data. Like, what?
Right.
He's like, yeah, they just click accept all, and we get all the data. So
yep,
apparently
all the location,
tracking all of your stuff. Not doing anything with it, but they have access to it. So.
Right. Yep, absolutely. No, it's powerful and important to see, and I'm excited to see that with or without us, this is growing and will be the way that the world is, and what your normal Uber experience. And so it is just it's a pleasure to be building it at the forefront like this, and it's always been awesome having you along with it, Dustin, and your mind to help craft how marketers are going to be utilizing everything. Any final thoughts or words from you?
No, just super fun to be out on the bleeding edge of data again. I didn't actually think I would get a chance to do it, and then this obviously has way more applications beyond like specialty outdoor. It's kind of where we're starting, but we didn't even get into the research, health, and rehabilitation aspects of this data, but this has a massive implication on our healthcare system. That will be cool to talk about at some point. But yeah, for right now, if you're a specialty outdoor brand, get some LX data and start marking your territory. Because once I'm sharing it with one bike company, I'm not going to share it with everybody.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks for your time. Anybody who wants to check out our website is DashLX.com, brand new website, which we're super appreciative of a marketing team for putting together. And I highly recommend taking a look at it, even if you have before, and clicking around to some of the use cases and whatnot, which are super applicable to every different facet of the industry. So yes, thank you for attending, and look forward to the next time.